Alright, let's get started in this Xclone series. So to start out with, let's go ahead and run npm run dev. The last video we had this issue if we go ahead and log in. And edit profile, and let's say we want to change the banner to something like this. And then we get this issue here. Just add in google.com for now and test. Currently, if we go ahead and inspect this, we just get this image here. So it doesn't look like it's storing it. So first and foremost, let's look inside our model for our user model. And in here, we need to add in some fillables. So if we head into our table where we actually created this ability to add the banners and that, let's go ahead and look at that. So we have this create users table in here where we have banner path. We want to go ahead and add that in here. We also want to go ahead and add location, website. And outside of that, we also need to go ahead and make sure that the description is filled in and the profile photo path. So if we go ahead and just add these in, hopefully it should now allow us to store the image. So I'm gonna go ahead and just close this down here and select an image. Gonna put in google.com and test. There we go. Now we have this thumbnail as our image. If we go in here and try to put a profile photo in, again, it works. Perfect. So now we're essentially able to upload the image here, but the banner seems to not really be stored inside here. So let's go ahead inside our edit profile model. Inside here we have this banner temporary URL, and then we have in here the banner path. So in this case, let's go ahead and look at our edit profile model. And in here, we essentially have to see if we have this from banner path filled out. So if we go ahead and open it, and also let's go ahead and say 1 or 2, just to have some random thing dumped out. It says 2, so that means that in this case it's empty. So hopefully it should go in here. So if it says 2 here, we should hopefully be able to see that this case is 3, so it doesn't go in there. So if we, no, it does go in here, so that's correct. That's good, because we have this set here. So let's see if we just go ahead and say off user banner path. What happens here? Let's just dump that out. And you can see we have this link here, but it isn't showing. So that's kind of the issue right now. So at the moment, we should be able to hopefully get this to work. So if we go into our edit profile page here, you can see that we have the banner path and we have the banner path specified here, but it doesn't seem to be loaded in. So if we go ahead and inspect the element, let's look at the styling here, and the issue may just be that we need to add a slash here. So if we go in now, add a slash, and there we go. So I want to go ahead and get rid of this now. So now we should hopefully be able to just go ahead and change these around to different ones. So I'm gonna go ahead and change this here, and I'm gonna go ahead and change the username, and that works. So something we may want to look at is the ability to update the username. Some places, for example, there's a limit of doing it every 30 days. So we could go ahead and add a migration for this. So let's say php artisan make migration, and then say add username last updated add to users table, and let's go ahead and see what that looks like. And in here we're just going to say table timestamp nullable and after username. And in here we want to just say username last updated add, and then go ahead and migrate this. So what we can go ahead and do now is add this into our user model. And then we could essentially go ahead and create a user model observer. So we go ahead and say php make observer, user observer. There we go. So if we head into our user observer here, you can then see inside the updated function here, we can then check if, in this case, user, and then we can see if this has changed basically. And we also need to make sure that we register the observer, which we can use an attribute here for. So you can say observe by user observer class, and then all we have to do in here is essentially swap this from an update, because that won't be triggered, and we can just go ahead instead and say user name equals to this form name. Same for the website, username, description, just like that. Because this would trigger the observer. If you do it the other way around, it wouldn't. And then we say user save. And then let's go ahead and see what happens if we go ahead and just change this. Okay, and then we can go ahead inside our edit profile model in here. Upon mounting, let's just say dd user username last updated add, and it says no. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix this inside the observer here. I think the first thing we need to do is just inside the user model, make sure that this is fillable. Go ahead and comment this out. And there you go. So now we can see this has been updated. So what we want to go ahead and do now is essentially say, in this case, that we have a carbon instance that we can create in class here. So I want to go ahead and create a public function can update username. In this case, we're going to say return and check if this difference in 30 days here. So what we want to do now is inside this form username here is first and foremost we want to disable it. So in this case, if we can say this can update username, in that case it will be disabled. And the other thing we need to do, which is quite crucial, is we need to add this as a timestamp. this is now disabled, so that's the first thing. The second thing is to show an helper text just below explaining what's going on. So we could go ahead and just say small, in this case, only if this is the case. Now, the other thing I like to do for this is essentially I don't want to store this right here. I would rather store this in a URL. So let's go ahead and create a configuration file for this. I'm just going to call this x.php. And then we're going to have return in here. And here we're going to have can update username every, and then we're gonna have in here, I'm gonna just store it as 30 because I think that's fine. So if you go ahead and say config x dot can update username, just like that. And then we want to go ahead in here and make sure that we add this in here. So config x.can update username. So by doing this, we're essentially ensuring that this will always get updated in here. We could even go ahead and add this as an env configuration, and we can do that by just saying can update username every 30 days. And then we can go ahead and set a default here. So inside your env file, you could then go ahead down here and say 30. Now, the second thing is we want to essentially throw an error here. We could go ahead and make a rule for it instead, but I would rather just go ahead and say this can update username. So if that's the case, we want to go ahead and say this form add error. In this case, you're going to say username. You can only update your username every X amount of days. And to test this out, I want to go ahead and just remove the disabled for now and then say something here. And we also need to make sure we just return. And we get this error here, which is perfect. So now we essentially know for certain that the user won't be able to edit this. Even if they manage to remove the disabled part, they won't be able to edit the username because it's not been 30 days. Now, if we went ahead in the database and said this 30 days in the past, it should work, but for now we will leave it at that. So now with that sorted, we are essentially able to edit the profile page. We are now going to work on first and foremost fixing this issue down here where the text is a bit bad. So if we head into our sidebar, in here we want to make sure that the text in here is text black and dark text white, like that. So now can we at least read it now? That's great. And the other thing is just add a slash here. That doesn't seem to work, so let's go ahead and make sure we use the same as we do on the edit profile.play.php. So in here, all we're doing is getting the profile photo URL. And if we head into the sidebar now, we should be able to hopefully get it to work, but currently it seems like it doesn't find it. So let's inspect the element and see what we're finding in here. And the reason for that is just because we add too many of these. You probably already spotted that mistake, so that's the reason why it didn't work. And let's remove that slash so that it actually works. Perfect. And yeah, that's essentially the most important part of the profile page done. Now we're actually able to edit our data, but we also want to be able to essentially go ahead and display treats. So the super simple way to do this is we can just go ahead and use the timeline component or similar for this one. So we will go down below and essentially just show all the treats that you've created. Or we could even just go ahead and do something on the profile blade actually. So I think what we want to do in here is just have a div with a border T and a border gray 700 for dark mode actually. Sorry, so let's go ahead and make sure that's the case. And for light mode we want to have border gray 200. And then we just want to have a for each in here saying user treats, and we just want to have the treat component in here with a key. And there we go. Now we're able to essentially see all the treats being passed through from the user. So that essentially completes the very basic of the profile page. We can count how many treats we have here. We have the ability to edit the data. You can only update the username every 30 days, whatever you set the value to be. You can update the website and the bio and the profile photo. Alright, so with the profile page sorted out, I think we will leave that out for now. And if we take a look, we have this issue on the notification page. So let's take a look at what's going on there. So this is just located inside our resources, views, Livewire, pages, notifications. And currently we're getting intent to read original tweet on null. So let's see where we have original tweet in notification.php. So in this case, it's probably good to go ahead and add in, I think, and is it? First and foremost, we want to check if we can find this in here. The issue is probably because the tweet doesn't exist. So in this case, we just want to return null. And we want to go ahead and make sure this can accept null. So currently we're getting an issue here with too many of the brackets. In this case, if we go into notification.blade.php, I want to just wrap this inside. We have this get tree, so if this get treat. Then we're getting an undefined key retweet ID. So we want to just make sure we can also find that. And currently this doesn't seem to work, so let's see why that is the case. Let's just dive up and see if we get in here. We don't. Okay, so in this case, we also, because Livewire won't accept this to be the condition without having a diff wrapping it around, we will have to add that in. And I think we also have to just make sure we say if not. So now we're just getting the notification type in here. So essentially, if we return null in here, we don't want to display it. So we want to just say it's not equal to null. And then we have the original tweet as well, which is coming from here. What I think I want to go ahead and do actually instead is just say if we can find it. Alright, so still seems to be complaining. Let's see if we can figure this out here. So down here we want to have, again, the tweet set here. And we want to make sure this syntax is correct. Then we just get an undefined array key of retweet ID. And then basically the other thing we want to check in here is first and foremost up here. Let's just go and say if this notification, and we don't want to have to type here, we want to have the retweet ID. There we go, so now we have this sorted. And we could also go ahead and add an else condition here for this retweet ID here. But I think we have already done it, so yeah, never mind. So yeah, now we have this error sorted out, so if we delete the tweet later on, it won't give any sort of errors in here. And outside of that, I think for the next video, we want to go ahead and make sure that we can view the tweet and also upload images properly to our tweet, make sure that fully works, and posting it, replying to tweet, and then working on quoting the tweets and fixing issues around the line. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.